So today we're lunging Darko just to keep his top line engaged and somewhat active. He's got severe hoof issues, but we still want to keep him somewhat muscular, and as long as he is sound-ish, active, we will keep him moving. Right now I've got it's draw reins with slight elastic in it, and this is what I only use for him because he tends to lean too much into a harsher. If it's static, he tends to just lean into it and don't care and push through, where the elastic allows him to have a little bigger room to go in it and then actually keep moving. As you can see, active. He really needs to keep moving. Come on. There you go. He needs to keep moving a little bit more from behind. There, he slows down again. Come up. Active. There we go. I just want a response. And he needs to keep moving. That's better. Nice and forward through that. So what I'm looking for is that he releases his lower neck, that it becomes nice and floppy, he's almost horizontal like this. You can see it quite jiggly right there. And then if you look at the lower part of the shoulder, there's like this large space. There we go. There we go. That's what I want. So there's still a lot of room behind the jaw. So we're not tying him up. He's using his top line, not as much as I want right now, but we would have to close the circle a little bit and engage him a little bit more from behind to do so. And this is a nice warm-up. I film it from this side so you can see his neck. And he drops his neck from the withers and he kind of arches down. He's a little bit more horizontal built horse, so you have to be very careful that he doesn't drop too low, because then they will load the forehand too much and they will actually disengage their horizontal balance, which we don't want. And this will actively engage his abs and engage him where he needs to be and round his top line and relax in. You can see his mouth is starting to foam nicely and he's rhythmic, which is hard for him because of his hoof issues. But again, like the moment horses are a semblance of sound, and there, this is a nice little thing, like he can open his mouth and get away from the pressure if he needs to. That's why I don't use nose bands and just let them tell me, hey, this is too harsh or whatever, or at least they can get away if they want to, so they can accept when they need to, when you do it the right way, so you're not tying their mouth shut necessarily. So this is kind of a different use for draw reins. You can do the shin bone this way. You have the soft aid that goes around the belly and then to the front as well, which is a very nice aid. This kind of resembles that, and it's a nice tool to get horses to actually engage and to fix certain issues. I'm going to change it in a bit and do it more as the draw reins tend to be, and then you can see that I could get a little bit more engagement of him. But this is a more advanced technique, plus you ask the horses slightly more to engage and collect, which if you do it wrong can greatly damage the animal, which we don't want, obviously. So even this, if you do this wrong, this is months of use of the shin bone, excuse me, to get him to understand what the pressure means. Plus he's been ridden on their saddle forever, right? So even now, like, he doesn't have full engagement, but he's relaxing his lower neck. He has room behind the jaw. He's engaging his top line. So this is all I want for him to do. There you go, good boy. And if we can just do this 20 minutes a day, at least I can have a semblance of some musculature on his body. And I just do this and walk because he's not capable of trotting in this arena because of his feet issues. This is slightly harder with one hand, and I have to kind of have three hands right now. Active. So what I'm doing now, so you can see that the draw reins are different right now. And you can see that there's a lot more hind leg engagement. I know it's kind of a crimped view. Trying to see if I can get him slightly further away from me. This requires a little bit more engagement of the handler, trainer. There you go, good boy, braaf, daar, braaf, goed zo. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to get him into his outside rein. Not too low. So I need to ask flexion and bend. There you go, good boy. I kind of saw his issues. So he starts to get more of a riding frame where you're pushing him from inside leg to outside hand. Good boy. So he needs to start flexing and bending here and starting to use that inside hind leg to step more under when he's in frame. Requires again a little bit more engagement from us, and which is great. This is kind of like a next level, and it's again very difficult to do. I don't have a cameraman right now, so I'm trying to get him to do this. You can see that the room behind the jaw is slightly less, so we are getting him a little bit more in that frame there, but you still see that there's enough room. It doesn't scrounge up like now. Now he's coming behind a bit. So I want him a little bit more further. There, good boy. In there. There you go, good boy, there. That's what we want to see. Good, brav. You see the room behind the jaw increases. This area becomes very nice and floppy, and this area becomes nice and round. And that's exactly what we want to see. And then for an overall image, let's see if I can, need to keep him from behind. And this is Washington State. So we have had a lot of rain today and yesterday and past week. That's why he kind of looks like he's been rained on for the last couple of days, because he has. Good boy. There you go. And this is again, I just started this with him, and he, I need to make a video with a cameraman so we can explain a little bit more. And now I need him to push that shoulder out a little bit so he goes more in that outside rein and not just make himself straight. Good boy. Good boy. I know, it's hard, huh? And there we go. So we get a little bit more engagement this way, and the higher you go, the shorter you can go with the reins. And at one point you don't even need the reins anymore. Right now I kind of have them on for illustration purposes. And because I'm filming. Okay. But at one point you wouldn't need the reins anymore. And at one point it's also like when is lunging. It's nice for like a weekly or bi-weekly, once every 2 weeks to relax them through. But overall your training should be in hand or riding. And it's just a preparation for that inevitability. So, but it's not to say that you can't do a lot while having horses engage this way. So it's a nice preparation, nice way to start, but it's definitely not the end result, obviously. So this is all to improve their top line, make them use their body with their nuchal and supraspinous ligament properly, because that's what carries the rider. So they have to be put in a frame to develop those structures. And that's why we're doing all this preemptive work instead of just letting them be in a natural frame or whatever you want to call it, because there's nothing natural about riding horses. So just a little confirmation. There's foam on both sides. Oh, keep your mouth still. Of the mouth. It's not stringy, it's not runny. It is foam that is nice and fluffy. And not like that I tied him up runny, which is a really good thing. So that's what we're looking for. And right now I'm just gonna have him walk out a little bit. I know buddy, I know, I like you too. Come on. Good boy. And just have him walk without constraints for a little bit. I'm struggling with my reins on lunge line. Good boy. And you can see he goes in a stretch himself. Active. I still need to keep him forward. Always start with rhythm. Even here, we always follow the German training pyramid. Skala der Ausbildung. Active. So rhythm first. then connection, and then relaxation. So those three are not really then. It's more those three combined produce a horse that comes into, that was really German, Anlehnung, which means that the leaning into the hand, that's what we're looking for. And then we can get the horses back to arch. If those three elements are not in place, active, then you're basically putting a horse on the forehand with a hollow back, which that is useless in riding. So we need a horse to develop their top line, so the arch over. We need to develop their correct musculature so they can arch their top line effectively over time, which means that the nuchal and supraspinous ligament are somewhat tightened. I know everybody's like, oh, you cannot be tight, nothing can be tight. Well, you have to tighten those structures in order for the back to rise and for them to be able to carry a rider. Because what happens is at the withers, right there, they have like protrusions on their vertebra, which are called spinous processes. And at the withers, they're pointed backwards, so they're pointed that way. At the lumbar area, they're pointed forwards. And at the sacrum, at the back, where their tail is, they're pointed backwards again. So you have these cords that run from their pole to their withers, from their withers to their sacrum. And those are the nuchal ligament in the neck, runs from the pole to the withers, and then it kind of flows into the supraspinous ligament, where it runs from the withers to the sacrum. And the moment they lower their neck, those cords are tightened, and because of their structure in their back, because of the spinous processes pointing in the direction they do, the back lifts. And this structure is designed to exude minimal effort and energy while grazing, which is their way of getting sustenance and energy, which is great. Now, the other element in that is they don't have collarbones, same as cats and dogs, and most four-legged creatures, they miss collarbones, which means that the barrel, the rib cage, floats between the front legs with soft tissue, which also means that those structures can be changed. And a horse that's on the forehand will lower its barrel into its legs, the elbows will split out, and then you get like wrong alignment of the front leg, and which we don't want, right? And will actually shrink, the horse will shrink. And if done correctly, they engage their thoracic sling, which is kind of like their chest, and they push their withers up, and that's what we're looking for. And the spinous processes and the supraspinous ligament and nuchal ligament come into this entire story because the hind legs are attached. So what this does is kind of shifts the weight to the connection of the back for them to let them graze. Now what we want to do while riding is engage that system to carry us as riders and actually have those spinous processes separate from each other a little bit when they arch their backs. And that's when they can carry the rider proficiently without damage over time. Because if you don't do that, you get hunter's bum, kissing spine, and all that stuff. Because the spines will collapse, the spinous processes will start to touch and rub, with all problems combined in that. However, just the lowering of the neck is not enough to get that back arched enough for them to carry a rider healthily. We need to engage the hindquarters. We need that pelvis rotated a little bit more. That's why the engagement, that's why you constantly hear me say active, which means active, which means I need to have more energy from behind to get more of the arch while carrying a rider. And that all comes together eventually, and that's why you get that frame. The neck is subsequent, is how would I say this? the neck happens. We don't force the neck in a certain position. Right now, it looks like we do, right? But when you're riding, it happens because the back is arched. And when the back arched, the neck falls into place. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to force the neck. No, we're forcing a rhythm, a consistent rhythm. We're forcing a consistent connection with the hand, with the reins, that will allow the horse to relax, that will allow the back engagement, which will allow the lifting of the back part of the back because the pelvis rotates, which then through energy and the collection of the energy up front allows the horse to arch their entire back. And that's what always should be striven towards. Usually in a normal position, depending on the horse's conformation, the mouth will be between front leg and chest, or roughly around chest height when they're in that initial position. And then depending on the conformation, you can go either higher or lower. Why do I say conformation? Dependent, if the horse has a shorter neck and a longer back, it can go lower. If the horse has a very short back and a long neck, you need to keep it higher. If the horse is overbuilt, you want to keep him higher. If the horse is very uphill, you can put him a little lower. It really depends. The sweet spot is when the back is arched. That's what we're looking for. And you can feel it on your saddle, and you can see it while you're on the ground. But the back needs to be arched so the horse develops the proper musculature.